Thank you to our sponsor, MBA Growth Partners.
Welcome to Studio 501c3. I'm your host, Kim Jones, CEO of the Nonprofit Village, a capacity builder and shared space for nonprofits. This show features nonprofit organizations that provide critical and essential programs and services. They're charities that the IRS has designated as 501c3 because they provide a public benefit. And often your donations to those nonprofits are tax deductible. We are also a proud partner of Montgomery Community Media, and MCM is your public resource that provides access to a variety of information and programs relevant to our community. On this episode, we're talking with Sarah Zullo, the Managing Director of the Ethiopian Community Development Center, or ECDC. The organization helps African newcomers to the community navigate the social service support system. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So ECDC, the Ethiopian Community Development Center, really works to include employment, cultural adjustment, addresses domestic violence, health, housing, translation skills. There are a lot of programs that have grown up with the organization over the years. Tell us a little bit about the beginnings and how the organization came to include such a comprehensive program for immigrants to the country.
Excellent. So the Ethiopian Community Development Council started about 35 years ago in Arlington, Virginia. Mm-hmm. At that time, we were catering to the need of newly arrived Ethiopian immigrants and refugees. And ever since, we have now grown to embrace a diverse group of people. So even though our name still continues to be the African Community Center, but today we work with people from Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Bhutan, you name it, from all over the world, the Congos, etc. Wow. As you said, we are essentially a place for newly arrived refugees and immigrants to help them integrate within the larger community.
Okay. So, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you is, when did the organization really start moving to work with all of the new arrivals to the country as opposed to just people in the Ethiopian or other African nations? And I see that you really have kind of expanded that and you're open. Do you also partner with other organizations in the community that do similar work?
Yes, so there is 9 resettlement agencies, that are approved by PRM, the State Department, if you like. We are the only community-based organization, and actually we did believe the reason that we wanted it to expand, we felt like all the other organizations were either sales-based or more, entitled with other nonprofits. So we wanted to be a community-based, from the community to the community, by the community. So this is really, our mission behind it. So we went and said, we have the capacity to resettle refugees, not just, the one coming from Ethiopia, but coming from Africa. You have heard in a few years ago, the lost voice of Sudan, people coming from Somalia, etc. But, we had that capacity, the cultural competencies, the language capacities, the understanding what's a new community arriving in a larger urban area, like Arlington, Virginia, but also Silver Spring, Maryland. We had that capacity to help them integrate. Because the long-term goal for us is not just survival, but it's real full integration within the community. So
right, that's very important. And I just want to stop you for a second. You happen to be located in, I think, downtown Silver Spring. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
So when people are trying to find
building.
you, yeah, it's a very convenient location right on Georgia Avenue. So when people, are looking to volunteer, or when you open up, there are other opportunities, or when you're doing your service, they know where to come. And we'll have that information on screen later on, how to get to you. What do you think is the most critical service that you provide? Is there any one thing that really stands out in the whole resettlement process in terms of making someone who's arriving feel welcome and understanding how to navigate this? It's a complex system.
It is an extremely complex system. It's helping them really build a safety net. really an understanding by linking them with the larger communities.
Okay.
Yes, we could always help you with employment. We can always help you get employment. We can always enroll your kid in schools, etc. But are you fully integrated with that community, or are you still isolated inside the community? And then we don't want this to happen. So that's why we work a lot with community sponsorship. We want them to really feel that they have a stake in the community they're living, that this is home now. Those are people who've been displaced from their homes, they've been chased away from their country. They finally find a place they can call home. And really that feeling of saying, I belong here, my children will be there. So it's that sense of belonging that we really, I think, is the most important thing that you need to give to someone who's newly arrived in a new community. And for most of people, this is it. This is going to be home. There is no returning back. So,
well, how do you do that? So making someone feel that this is home? Do you end up having volunteers and your colleagues really adopting that person or that family? What's the secret sauce? The
secret, sauce that will come from grandma will be exactly that linking that newly arrived refugee to their community. So we run this program, what we call the First Friend, where we recruit volunteers and interns, where we train them, and they will go directly to the refugee home, and they spend time with them. They will sit with them, have food with them. We also want it to be a cultural exchange. It's not like we don't always want to feel that people we are here to teach you, but there are also people who wanted to they're ready to learn. So, that cultural thing that happen when you sit around the table and break bread together, you finally feel like there's so many in common than our differences, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that when they both feel like there is a place for both of us within this society, within this community, within this neighborhood. So
I can see
really
where
that linkage.
I can see where that
that's the hardest work. You're right. It's extremely hard. To perfect that secret recipe is very hard. Right. But ultimately, this is the goal of the organization, is really creating that, feeling of belonging and really feeling that you have a stake in this community.
Good. All right. Well, I want to come back to that in just a moment, but we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll hear a little bit more about those services, some success stories, and I have a few other questions for you. So we're learning more about the Ethiopian Community Development Center with Sarah Zullo. We're on Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media, and we'll be right back.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
You are there for them. We are here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to Studio 501c3, your window into exceptional nonprofit programs in Montgomery County. So I'm talking with Sarah Zullo, the managing director of the Ethiopian Community Development Center, and we were talking about, before the break, making new immigrants to the community more comfortable. And one of the things that you mentioned when you were talking earlier, Sarah, was about the language capacity. How many different languages do your staff and colleagues and volunteers need to have in order to communicate with all of the new immigrants that are coming?
Not that much, because we do use a lot of translators. We have in-person translator, but also the language line. So that's very helpful. I mean, we do understand not one person will ever speak all the language that we need. Right. In our staff, give and take, we always have at least 12 to 13 language capacities among ourselves. But in addition to that, if a person being comfortable working with interpreters, but also, I think there is this international language where people get together once again, where they feel comfortable, So it's just a language exchange. So no, not much really. For critical services, we definitely use interpreters. As I said, either we use a phone interpretation or we use in-person interpretations.
Okay, and I also wanted to ask you about the extent, the geographic extent, because when this program was started, I think it's 35 years, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was one location, and now you actually have people that are working across the country through a network and doing this work in different communities. So you've really grown, to include a lot of different areas, not just one city.
Mm-hmm. So absolutely. I mean, we are, in urban areas, we are in rural areas now. You're right. An immigrant, just like any other population, they move around, So they go places where, housing is a little bit cheaper. They go places where they feel like there are other communities that came from the same country where they are. So we try to have at least affiliate offices in different areas of the country.
Okay. Can you share briefly, we only have a couple of minutes left, but can you share briefly maybe a success story, one person or one family that, you pulled together all of the resources and it really launched them into, now really being part of the community and not only the employment, education, but all of the other services. And now that person or family might be giving back in another way.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to walk around, Georgia Avenue. If you go, up and down all the small little, African-owned, Ethiopian-owned, Iraqi-owned, Afghani-owned businesses. Those are the people who, at one time or the other, have came through one resettlement agency as refugees or as immigrants who really needed the help that agencies like ours will give them, which is help with employment, education, social adjustment. Domestic violence, understanding the school system, understanding the health system. Mm-hmm. When you put all this together in a few years, it really starts very small. A person that you picked up from the airport was very shy, didn't speak a word of English or anything. And 5 years ago, again, you'll see them and they will come with a flyer and they tell you, I just opened a small little business right across the street. Right. Would you please come? And I am at loss of words, you know what I mean? It's just that feeling that in some ways.
Yeah, and what a boon to the local economy.
Exactly, they're so integrated, they're welcoming, and they're now hiring other people, and it's unbelievable.
Right.
Specifically for us, where we felt like in some way I have contributed, in some little ways I have contributed to this success story. It's their stories, it's our story, this is the story of the community. So this is often what I tell them.
And that's a good point. And we're actually out of time, but that is such a good point. That's what community is all about, that everybody has contributed and then you all get something back because of that. So it sounds like tremendous work, incredible work that you're doing. And I hope that some of our viewers will not only look you up, but maybe come and volunteer with you and somehow engage in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much for giving us a voice. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Oh no, this is important information, and I'm very sorry that we're out of time, but I do appreciate that range of services that you're offering and all of the information that you share, Sarah. I think it's tremendous opportunity for the community, for our audience, and I want to let people know that for more information on programs, you can visit the website at ecdcus.org. I'm Kim Jones. Thanks for joining us, and come back for another edition of Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media.